Hello, I'm the Bunny Man,
And I'm Crazy Susie.
and we are in the Eyes of Terror. And happy the end of summer. Woo!
You sound so unenthused, but we love fall.
I do, but it's still like 90 some odd degrees here.
I know, that's not fabulous, but...
Yeah, especially when you're ready for like hoodies and pumpkin, and you're like, I got my hoodie on, I'm gonna go outside. So hot.
Well, Luna feels like that every day because she wears her winter coat every day.
I know. So anyway, we're again behind. We've had a crazy.
We're always behind. But anyway, we are working on the classics that never die. And tonight we have The Curse of the Werewolf.
Yes, and it's an hour and 32 minutes. But before we get in there, we actually had a viewer comment on our last podcast of The Brides of Dracula. And this is what he said. Nice stuff. Although I think you guys overthought this one too much. Dracula died at the end of the previous film, Horror of Dracula. He doesn't have any connection to the character in this film. The main vampire in this film is the son of the old woman who lives in the castle. She's aware of what he is, but cannot bear to kill him, so she spreads the rumor about the Baron's death to avoid people coming around the castle and becoming afflicted with vampirism. It's supposed to be about Van Helsing's character traveling around the countryside fighting vampires, so the series was supposed to continue with him, not anyone else in the lead.
Yep.
Okay, so number one, we always overthink everything. So let's get that idea that we don't overthink things.
Yeah, that's kind of what we do.
Number two, we actually didn't realize this was a part of a greater series.
Yeah. Because we just have the Hammer collection, which has... I don't have it in front of me to tell
it's
it's
right there. It's the Hammer horror series.
Right.
And it just started off with the Brides of Dracula.
It's right where?
Right there.
Oh, not bad. I do have it in front of me.
Yeah.
It's the Hammer horror series, and it just has a few films in it. Let's see. It has Brides of Dracula, The Curse of the Werewolf, The Phantom of the Opera, Paranoiac, The Kiss of the Vampire, Nightmare, Night Creatures, The Evil of Frankenstein.
So, yes. So, like I said, we didn't realize it was a series. That makes more sense. But we tried to view each film as its own, not as a whole of a series. But thank you for that feedback. We really do enjoy it.
Yeah, we do like feedback. And, we do typically overthink things, but...
And I actually like that the series goes with just Van Helsing instead of Dracula. That's a new take on a lot of the classical stuff.
Yeah.
The horror genre, especially nowadays. I mean, so let's get back to our movie. Let's do our normal "what do we drink" thing.
Yeah, I decided that we would try some energy drinks because we are night people. We are vampire-like. I'm not one with the words right now, unfortunately. Vampire-like, you could say. And we often record at night.
Well, it's the only time we really can.
We have very loud neighbors, and we would like to not have to edit our films or our podcast so much. Well, the Bunny Man would like to have to edit this. I can't say we because I'm not involved in the editing process. I'm involved in the... You shouldn't make so much noise in the videos, so I don't have to edit them so much process. So, anyway, I got us some Monsters, and the one we're enjoying at the moment is Pipeline Punch. I unfortunately can't have any alcohol in mine because of the medication I'm on. I like to live, and so I'm having mine straight up, and the Bunny Man has his with Sailor Jerry's in it.
And I'll tell you what.
Wouldn't be my choice, but...
Okay, so it's tropical. I was thinking more tropical, and it's very, very, very sweet. Almost too sweet for me.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of a very, I don't know, fruit punchy kind of tangerine cough syrup.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think this is something we're going to buy again. But if you're really into, it's almost sickly sweet. So
I think it would be better if it had some Jägermeister in it, but again, it's not worth death.
Because even the Sailor Jerry's is not that great in it. It doesn't even cut it. And I think the anise of Jaeger would just be gross.
I don't know. Anyway.
So that's what we're drinking. I really don't think very highly of this one.
What?
The Pipeline. I'm just not a big fan. Honestly, my favorite energy drink is the Monster Import. It's the only one. That and that German one.
I don't know. I just thought I'd get new ones to try.
Yeah, no. I mean, those are the two ones that I've had. Oh, yeah, and I forgot to say that we also had a listener, send us a movie that we're going to do.
Probably closer to the middle of the month or so. We still have a couple more.
The Hammer films.
We're going to finish up our Hammer films. I'm dropping everything. Sorry, guys. We're going to finish up the Hammer films, and then we're going to work on this. This is a film that's very close and dear to Bunnyman's heart. We love Manos, and the gentleman that sent us this...
he did a prequel.
He did. It's Manos, The Rise of Torgo.
So you can... Just saying... that's something to look forward to. And again, yes. We like to thank our listener for sending us this. And if you have any short films or even a long film that you want us to review...
We've had a couple of people send us short films to view and give us and asked us to give our take of it. And that's been really quite enjoyable. So we do appreciate
because
that.
We do enjoy more independent than we do big studio. Let's do the shilling. We do heavy red bubble. I'm almost done with the first design. I've just been having issues with trying to finish that.
You have done illustrations for all these Hammer films, and they turned out really good. I like those.
And I'm going to probably also go onto Teespring and do them to set up on both. And then we do have a Patreon.
Aren't we going to put out some Halloween
designs? Yes, I'm working on it. I can show you actually right now. This is what I'm doing, more vintage mask stuff, old school Halloween type stuff is the idea.
Right, but if you go on our Redbubble, we'll keep you up to date on it. We are going to have some Halloween items, illustrations that you can get put on mugs, t-shirts, different things like that. So.
And then anything else?
We just wanted to let you guys know that we're going to have those things available.
Oh, yeah. We also are on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, if you want to follow us on there. And we've actually... We get into these weird areas where we will sort of lag, and then we'll just have this huge explosion. Mm-hmm. And that's also happened for our podcast. We were at, I think, 5 downloads, maybe a day. And then all of a sudden, we hit, 20 every day except for this weekend. So
we're wanting to do a contest for creepypastas, and I'm hoping to do it sometime in October. So you guys need to be on the lookout for the details for that. We should be posting it on our Facebook page and have a post for it on Twitter as well.
And I'll post that also on Instagram. And then...
Yeah. We haven't really hashed out the finite details for it, but we will have a couple of prizes, and we will also have the winner's creepypasta. We will read it on our podcast. So, but we will let you guys know when we're actually going to start that. But it's going to be sometime in October. That's kind of my pet project. I thought it would be something fun to do. I wanted to do some kind of contest kind of thing. And you guys can keep an eye out on our YouTube channel. We're going to have some more Halloween shopping type videos. The Bunny Man and I are very excited about the fact that stores are actually starting to put out their Halloween stuff.
Yeah, but the reason why we haven't done it up to this part is that, at least in this region, we've had the back to school, and that's dominated everything.
Right, a lot of the stores near us really haven't
because we
started putting out Halloween stuff yet.
Because we live near like 3 major universities.
Yeah.
So.
But, I mean, in our home, Halloween never goes away. We have Halloween decorations out year-round. And in late September, mid-September to late September, we actually put out our Halloween tree. And it stays up until about New Year's, and then we put it up, but it doesn't really have Christmas decorations on it. It has Halloween decorations on it, so we do things a little bit differently than most people.
We might post our tree this year online, so...
Yeah, that's possible. So, getting back to our film, it is The Curse of the Werewolf, 1961.
It's 1 hour and 32 minutes.
1 hour and 32 minutes long.
What is the IMDb score?
The IMDb score is a 6.8 out of 10, which is quite high.
Mm-hmm.
The origin for this film is the UK, and it is listed as a horror film. This is one of those older ones, so it doesn't really have a lot of genre.
And this is another horror in Technicolor.
Technicolor. The director for this film is Terence Fisher. The writers are John Elder and Guy Endore. The screenplay was written by John Elder, and the novel, because this film was originally a novel, which was by Guy Endore. I'm tempted to let you say the cast so I don't screw any of it up.
Oh, I don't guarantee anything. So the cast is Clifford Evans plays Alfredo.
Pasta.
Yeah. Oliver Reed plays Leon. And Oliver Reed, what else he played in? Like years and years later? The Count of Monte Cristo.
Huh.
He played the wise old sailor with the white beard. Catherine Feller plays Christina. Yvonne Romain plays Servant Girl. Anthony Dawson plays the Marquis Sinistro.
Mm-hmm.
Josephine Llewellyn plays the Marquisa. Richard Wordsworth plays the Beggar. Hira Talfrey plays Teresa. Justin Walters plays young Leon. John Gabriel plays the Priest. Warren Mitchell plays Pepe Valentine. And Annie Blake plays Rosa Valentine. And many, many more at imbd.com.
Okay, the storyline is in the 18th century Spain, an adopted boy becomes a werewolf and terrorizes the inhabitants of his town.
So I did some research on what a marquis is.
Mm-hmm.
And a marquis is not quite a duke, but not quite a baron. So it's like in the middle. And the hierarchy of people with titles like that.
Well, this marquis really does take advantage of his power.
Yes.
He is a jerk.
I think that's saying that lightly.
Yeah, that's giving him some credit.
I think his Spanish name shall be El Jerque.
Not sure that's a word, but okay.
It is now. The film starts out with a beggar asking, "Why are the bells ringing on an on Sunday?" The street's empty, completely empty. There's nothing going on.
He's walking through the town, and he's trying to figure out what the heck is going on, because there's nobody in the town whatsoever. The town is empty. But the bells are ringing, the church bells, but I guess the church bells typically only ring like that on Sunday, but it's not Sunday.
Well, I mean, they did say that he may be a beggar, but he's not stupid to know not what day it is.
Right. A guy walks through town and he questions him, "Where is everyone? Why are the bells ringing?" And he's like, "What are you, stupid? Read the banner,"
It's like, or can you not read? And he's like, no.
No, he asked him if he's stupid.
Yeah.
And he's like, well, I'm just a simple beggar. And he's like, can't you read? Because there's a great big
Poster,
yeah, with the, the marquee seal on it, and it's all scripted writing and gold print and everything. And he goes, I can't read. And the dude's kind of like, well, sucks to be you.
Yeah.
Keeps on
and
walking.
And then he goes into basically the local pub, and everybody's like sitting there laughing and drinking, but there's like no food. Did you notice that? There's like no one's eating anything.
Yeah.
And this one, he asks like, what's going on? And people are like, oh, well, the Marquis is getting married. And he goes on about how he basically took all the money out of the town, and they had nothing to spare because he tries to beg for money. And then
the guy says they're celebrating by order of the Marquis. So the beggar's like, oh, okay. And he takes his hat off, and he's like, so he asked the town people, he says, do you have any money to spare? And they just crack up laughing at him.
They have a good old hoot and holler.
Out of the goodness of your heart, do you have any money to spare? I'm just a beggar.
I'm just a poor boy from a poor family. About a moosh.
So they laugh at him, and they tell him, go up to the castle. Ask them for your charity. Ask them for their charity. They're the ones that have all our money. We paid for that great big feast they're having right now. We even paid for the bride.
Yeah.
Bless her. They feel sorry for that bride. The man that she's married to.
So the beggar actually goes up.
Yeah, so the beggar's like, okay. Heads off, and the townspeople are like,
well, he screwed up.
what the hell's wrong with this dude?
Yeah.
What is wrong with this man? He just dug his grave, basically,
Yeah. They're like, well, he's got some cojones. And, yeah.
They think he's kind of mental.
Yeah.
Something's not quite tight. His screws are a little loose,
So he goes up there, and we see how, like, egotistical and bullyish is the word, mean that the Marquis can be, because they had this huge line of like food. It's on parade. It's like the Macy's Day of Food Parades or something, and they're marching in.
So yeah, the Marquis and his wife are sitting at one table, and all of his guests are sitting at other tables, and the chef comes in with a platter. And the people that come in with the other platters of food are like children.
Yeah. Well, but it wasn't uncommon for like kitchen helpers, because you would have like people whose sole job was to move the spigot around for hours on end. Mm-hmm. And usually they would have children because they didn't have child laws back then. So, and stuff like that. So they were carrying in, and there was this goose, and it was a full-fledged goose.
Well, they had cooked the goose, and they had only plucked the feathers on the main part of the body. The feathers and the wings and everything were kept intact. Well, the goose was actually posed to where it looked like it was in flight. Like the wings were spread out like it was in flight.
It was actually quite beautiful of
They had the head and the neck still attached. It actually looked like it was alive, but it was in flight, but the body was roasted. Well, they bring it out. The chef brings it out on a platter and parades it in front of the Marquis and the Marquise. And the Marquise was like,
she was very taken aback by it.
Ew, like this looks very unappealing to me. And the Marquis stands up and he looks at the chef and he's like, what is wrong with you? Why would you cook a geese when you know the Marquise doesn't like geese?
And it's not that she probably didn't like geese. She just didn't like it that it looked alive.
Right. She was very taken aback by the fact that they posed it, and it still probably had a head.
But can you imagine the process it would have... Like, the chef was looking for appraisal because it must have... I mean, if you did it in... it would have been extremely hard to have done something like that.
Yeah,
and not singe the feathers on it, and...
Right, I'm sure it was very time-consuming doing that.
And so basically, in the marquee, he comes up and just like slams the plate, and it goes flying.
Yeah, he slams the platter onto the ground, and then tells the chef to pick it up. And when the chef goes to bend over, he kicks him to the floor. He bawls out laughing. The entire party guest just howls with laughter.
Well, because you don't want to be that guy that's not laughing with the royalty guy, because you might lose your head, or be thrown into jail. More or less, you would die, in my opinion, if you were in that higher up and you weren't laughing with.
Yeah. So, the beggar knocks on the door, and one of the servants goes to answer the door. And the beggar explains, I'm just a beggar. I came to see if the Marquis would help me. And he's like, for God's sake, man, leave before he sees you. And the Marquis's like, who is it?
Yeah, and then
And the servant's like, no one, my lord. And the Marquis, the beggar speaks up, and the Marquis's like, well, let him in.
Yeah, so...
And the servant was upset. The servant was like, well, you've done it now.
Because the servant knew,
you've done it now, man.
Because the servant probably knew firsthand what's going to happen. And, I mean, he knows that this guy is not a good guy. He's not pleasant. So, basically, he tells the beggar to dance for their entertainment. Or sing and then dance, and then...
So the beggar comes in and says... My lord, out of the goodness of your heart, would you have any charity for me? He laughs and says, if you had only let us know you were coming. And everybody laughs at him.
I'm sorry, I didn't have your number on speed dial, or I would have.
Everybody laughs. Well, his new bride is very upset. She gets very upset. And... she takes pity upon the beggar, and she wants to feed him. She says, can you not give him some food and drink? Well, her husband takes a chance to use this opportunity to make a fool of the beggar. And he says, beggar, how much are you worth? Can I buy you? Are you worth 3 pices? 6 pices? How about 10? And he says, oh, my lord, 10 pices? And he says, fine, 10 pices. He stands up, pulls out 10 coins from his pouch, and throws them onto the ground. Well, what do you think the beggar does?
He goes and dives. It sort of reminds me of like one of those whirlwinds of money type things, where they put people in the
wind machine?
Yeah, with the money in it. It's like, catch as much money as you can. And, but instead it's on the ground. And
yeah, so the beggar dives on the ground and picks up the coins and shoves them in his pockets. And the Marquis tells his wife, he says, there, my sweet, you have a pet. You can keep him now. He's yours. I bought and paid for him just for you. The wife says, fine, he can be my pet. I want you to give him food and drink. So he says, you heard her. Bring him wine and give him a glass.
And they give him like a small...
Yeah, they give him a tiny glass. And the Marquis says, no, give him my glass. And it's a massive glass. It's like 7 times bigger than the glass he had. And he goes, fill it up.
I think the technical term for the glass that he had was a chalice.
Okay.
Chalice.
Okay, yeah, sure.
Special word of the day, chalice.
Okay, word of the day, chalice. So he fills up the chalice, and the beggar's gulping it down. Wine's running down his chin.
It's actually quite gross watching him do this. And I don't know if you've ever had alcohol on an empty stomach, especially after like 3 days. Yeah, that wine pretty much went straight to his head.
Yeah. Well, the Marquis was very demanding, and he says, beggar, I want you to dance. Well, the beggar says, he said, I want you to sing first. The beggar says, well, I don't know any songs. So the Marquis says, well, then dance. The beggar hesitates, but does eventually dance. A drunken dance. The wife is insistent that her pet be fed.
Well, you forgot the orchestra played the safety dance, so everybody dance if you want to. You ain't no friend of mine if you don't dance.
I'm not sure what movie you watched. You must have been in your head when you heard that part. So the Marquis was like, fine, we'll give him food. He takes a bone from his plate with scraps of meat still on it and throws it on the ground.
Like a dog.
Like a dog.
He feeds him like a dog. And then, of course, the beggar goes and dives after this scrap of meat. And there's like this roast, like on the edge of the table. He's been trying to like get for the past like 15 minutes. He's like, we're just going to take the roast and leave me alone.
Mm-hmm. So, at this point, the Marquis says to his guests that he and his wife are going to retire for the night. Well, the pet says, have fun! This angers the Marquis.
No, he says it several times, and each one getting increasingly creepier and cringier.
And the Marquis is about to give orders that are not very nice. His wife reminds him, remember, he is my gift, and I do not want my gift to be hurt. So the Marquis tells a servant, you see that he is looked after. So, they see that he's looked after all right. They just take him and throw him in the dungeon.
In the dungeon?
And the only people after that actually have anything to do with the pet or the beggar is the jailer and his daughter, who they say is a serious child who never speaks.
So she's basically mute.
Yes. Years pass and the beggar was forgotten of. The jailer does eventually die, and the only person who comes to see the beggar is the jailer's daughter.
Yeah. And she's grown to be very attractive.
She's all grown up now, but still she could not speak. The beggar is now dirty and hairy.
He is very hairy.
Mm-hmm.
Like, hair where hair wouldn't usually be at hairy.
Yeah. He is given bones for his supper, bones that have very little meat on them. The jailer's daughter she's also now doubling as a maid for the Marquis. The Marquis is now all alone because his foul temper has taken his wife to an early grave and has pushed all of his friends away.
And he's grown to be a very ugly old man.
Yes.
Like bumps underneath his eyes and
Well, he has like growths on his face.
Yeah.
That he picks at.
Yeah. He sort of reminds me of the Baron Harkonnen from like the 1984 Dune. Just a little bit.
So
And did you say he was a recluse? The Marquis turned into a recluse?
he is a recluse. He pretty much stays in his room as the jailer's daughter was cleaning the fireplace in the Marquis' bedroom. He made advances to her, and she didn't take kindly to that, so she bit him. Well, he didn't take too kindly to that. He got very mad, and so he ordered her to be locked up in the dungeon.
Yeah.
So now she is joined with her friend, her beastly beggar friend.
And the beggar, he sort of comes out of like behind a column. And at first I'm like, is he blind? Because he sort of looks like he's blind. You know what I'm saying? He's just sort of staring off and he just slowly saunters to her.
I think it takes him a minute to kind of realize what's going on.
Yeah.
Because I don't think, even when she comes to visit him, it's only like once a day.
Mm-hmm.
So it takes him a minute to realize somebody's in the cell with him.
Yeah, so I mean, I still think I'm arguing that he's blind or he has very bad eyesight.
So this beastly man is very overwhelmed with desire, and he takes advantage of her. Now, it obviously does not show this because of the era of filming that we're in. this time period of films.
But she wakes up looking wet and sticky.
Well, her clothes are torn and dirty, and, you know, it's obvious that she's been harmed.
Yeah.
And the beggar basically looks like he's comatose.
Or dead.
Yeah, so I don't know. And the next day, they let her out. And basically the guard tells her, you know what you need to do to make things right. So she goes directly up to the Marquis's bedroom. And you think that she's going up there to thank him for her freedom. Well, she finds him and he's like, well, did you come in here to say you're sorry or whatever? I hope you learned your lesson. And without fail, she goes in the room. The second she sees him, she grabs a candle holder off the wall and just stabs him.
Yeah.
Runs out of the house.
And this is her first kill. Mm-hmm. And it's a torch holder, basically. It's a sharp torch holder.
Right.
And it's I give it a 4 out of 5. It's a pretty brutal attack. Because she doesn't let up.
Well, and the thing is, it's very unexpected. Like, you don't expect that to happen.
Well,
you genuinely think that she's going to go apologize.
You see that she has something behind her back. Mm-hmm. But yeah, you really don't expect her to... No. And the brutality of it was... So she runs out, and she runs into the Brides of Dracula Forest, where she hooks up with the one chick to go to to the ballet that they went to. To go live there in the forest for a while.
Yeah, she's in the forest for a couple months, and she just kind of stays there, and I think just kind of basically they say she lives there like an animal.
And there are parts of this movie that sort of like the whole beggar cell scene and then this sort of scene, it really doesn't flow very well.
Yeah, they said that she basically stays in the forest and lives there for a couple of months like an animal until a gentleman happens upon her and takes her home. They get her cleaned up and give her a nice warm meal and give her a nice warm bed to lay in. Well, the gentleman, his maid, and his maid have a very strange relationship. They act as if they're husband and wife, but they're not. Their relationship is very strange. Anyway, so the gentleman, they say his name a couple of times in the film.
Yeah. But
most of the time, he's just referred to as Senor.
I like to also refer to him as, that guy has an awesome pipe. I think it's Alfredo.
Maybe. Anyway, it's Leon's dad.
Well, okay, so we'll get into that. But he has a really awesome pipe.
Yeah.
And he looks like he's some sort of like artist. He's pretty well off. He's well off. He lives in a nice area. He's a drawing room.
Right. So he takes her home and gets his maid Teresa to, get her cleaned up and put her to bed and make sure she's comfortable. And Teresa comes into the sitting room and tells him, well, hopefully she'll get her strength up and we won't lose her, especially considering the baby. And he's like, what baby? He's like, what baby? And she says, she's with child. She's going to have a baby in a couple of months. And he's like, say what?
And then, of course, she goes into this really weird spiel about...
That's like a scene or two later.
Okay, that's a scene or two later. So...
Yeah, it's not right here. First, they have the initial talk of the fact that there's going to be a baby. Because, he's a man and they don't realize things like that. So, Teresa gets her settled. And, they have the baby talk. And she's just concerned because she's really weak and she's worried that, she won't get her strength up and she'll actually die and they'll lose her and the baby. Well, after she's there for a while, she gets her strength up and Teresa's confident that she's on the mend, so they don't stress over her dying or anything. Teresa finally realizes, after some time of her being there, that this mystery lady actually can't speak, because she's carrying on entire conversations with her, and she tells her, you don't have to be shy around me, you can talk. And she does this motion in front of her mouth, and Teresa finally realizes it's not that she doesn't want to talk to her, she can't. So Teresa breaks down and cries with her and hugs her, and it's okay, sweetheart, I'm so sorry.
They were just having women alone time. Women time. Crying time.
Okay. All women cry. Shut up. So she was just sympathizing with her, because this is an issue that she had. And then after that scene is when Teresa goes to the Signor and explains to him the baby is due really close to Christmas. And where she's from, that is considered a curse. You don't want a baby due at Christmas time.
No. It's an unwanted child out of... So
a child out of wedlock.
A child. Well, no, more of not even a child out of wedlock. More of a rape baby, basically. I hate to put it that bluntly, but a child that either, in two cases, either somebody.
Well, then why did she say that the women in her town stay away from men?
No, the men stay away from the women
during certain times. During certain months,
because
to prevent pregnancies in December.
Well, I think what I was going to go back to saying was
that's not what she said. She said the women stay away from men during certain times during certain months
time,
to prevent pregnancies in December.
I mean, it could also be like, a man. They get along, they get together, and then he leaves or whatever. Mm-hmm. It could be just circumstance. I don't know.
Right.
But I don't know, because he didn't say out of wedlock, because that would have made, you could have said that, and that would have still... Mm-hmm. So it was just, they said, any unwanted child.
Right.
So it could even be like, even if you were married, and you're like, I really don't want this baby. You see what I'm trying to get at?
Okay, so she ends up having a medicine woman come to see if she can induce the labor.
Or delay. It's either induce. It cannot be. They cannot have it on the 25th, which is Christmas.
Yeah.
Because that's considered blasphemy to the heavens, as she puts it.
Right. Well, but she was doing things to try to bring on labor. Mm-hmm. And she was successful. The baby was born, and...
But basically right at midnight.
Yes. And shortly after the baby was born, the mother died.
Yeah.
So Teresa and the Signor raise the baby. They name him Leon. They have him baptized, and some weird stuff happens.
Yeah.
During the baptism. Like, the priest went to dip his hand in the holy water, and the holy water receded away from his hand, and it was some strange stuff.
And then there was a random storm that wasn't supposed to be scheduled because the Weather Channel doesn't know how to do their job. And
it was weird.
Yeah.
Well, Leon, some years passed, and Leon is a small boy at this time, and there's some incidences that happen in the town to where some goats are found with their throats torn out. Leon's cat is found with its throat torn out. And there's just a lot of just strange reports of animals that are killed.
You know what it was? It was a chupacabra.
Okay. Sam Squanch.
Yep.
And the mayor is very displeased that Pepe, who is actually in charge of scouting areas for nuisances such as wolves, has allowed a wolf into the town. Well, Pepe decides to stay up all night and patrol. He plans on killing the wolf, and the mayor gave him 24 hours to get this accomplished. He actually shoots at something, and he's pretty confident that he shot the wolf. Come to find out, he actually shot Leon in the leg.
But they will keep that. They will keep that hush hush.
Right. The Signor and Teresa stay up most of the night digging out the bullet from Leon's leg, and Senor decides to put bars on Leon's window to try and prevent this kind of incident from reoccurring. So Teresa, she ends up returning the bullet to Pepe's wife and basically telling her, "Oh, well, I found this up past my house. It was embedded in a tree, so I supposed Pepe must have missed."
Yeah, because there was that whole thing of like, why didn't you kill the wolf? And he's like, well, I hit something because there was a pool of blood, but there's nothing to be found. So he was like, so everybody's like, oh, you missed. You really suck at your job, basically. Right. You had one job and you can't do that. So that that adds to that whole like, he missed. His wife's like, yeah, he missed then.
So the Senor decides to talk with Leon about the troubles that he's having. And he says that he has bad dreams. And he's had bad dreams ever since he went on the hunting trip with Pepe, and Pepe killed the squirrel. He has bad dreams about him drinking blood.
Well, he went through like how he went shooting with Pepe, and then he couldn't kill the rabbit. The squirrel. But he picked it up and suckled the blood, and he wanted to keep doing it because it was sweet. So basically that helped rise something inside of him.
So the Senor talks with the priest about the troubles that Leon is having, and he says that Leon is a werewolf, and his soul and his spirit are constantly at war. He says that the only cure for this is love. And eventually he will meet a girl when he is older, and he will love her very deeply. And the most important part is that she should love him very deeply. And if she does, then the curse will be lifted from him.
You want to know what this really means? All you need is love. Love. All you need is love.
I'm pretty sure that's trademarked. So Pepe gets tired of the town people making jokes of him. And so he forges a new bullet out of silver, and not just any silver.
His wife's a bit crossed on this one.
He melts down his wife's silver crucifix, which was blessed by an archbishop. His wife is very upset about that, and he says, all the better. All the better.
Well, it's double holy now.
Yeah. So that night, Pepe stays up and he guards the flock. And he actually catches something attacking the flock, and he shoots it. But it's not Leon, although Leon does attempt to escape again, but he can't due to the bars.
He's also small.
Pepe shoots the neighbor's dog.
Because Pepe always thought it was the neighbor's dog, or this farmer's dog. And the farmer's like, no, it's not. So he shoots the dog with the silver bullet, then he digs the silver bullet out and puts it around his neck.
Yep. So some years have passed, and Teresa and Senor are so very proud of Leon, as he is old enough to go to work now.
Well, okay, so there's a part where he is changing, and then they come up to him, and they love on him, or put a hand like, it's okay, we understand. It's a thing called puberty. You're going to get some really weird hair growing in really weird places, like mostly into your entire face. Your chest is going to look like a wolf pelt, but that's just normal. Every child goes through that. So it's okay, we're here for you. And then all of a sudden, the hair sort of recedes, and he goes back to being a normal human, person. And they're like, "See, just with love, we've stopped."
So, they dote upon him and everything, and he walks on to the next town to start his new job. He gets right to where his employer is, and a passing horse and buggy splash him in his new clothes and get him all dirty. So he meets with the owner, and the owner shows him the accommodations, and he says, Jose will tell you what you need to do.
And basically, it's pretty basic. White, red,
Right.
put it in bottle, put on the...
Yeah, it's nothing complicated.
Label,
You know, Jose explains everything to
Here's 6, each day 6 posados.
So, the only not so great thing about this new job is, with the new job comes...
The Jose.
the owner's daughter, Christina. Leon is very infatuated with her, but she is already betrothed to another man.
Well, this guy is very... Well, yes, we shall do this. I am better than everybody else.
Yeah. Well, Leon and Christina end up having a thing for each other to the point that Christina starts faking headaches to come home early, so Rico, her fiance, spends less time with her so she can end up spending more time with Leon, and they end up secretly meeting each other.
Is she having an affair? Because I mean, is it an affair if you're betrothed to somebody but not married?
I don't know. So Leon wants them to run away together and get married. He wants her to let him speak to her father, and she says no, that he will send him away and they will never see each other again.
He will go to another winery.
Jose wants to go out on Saturday and have fun because that's payday.
Well, Jose wants to get down. Get down, get down.
And Leon just wants to stay in. That way he can, be able to see Christina again. And Jose's like, who stays in on Saturday? What's wrong with you?
On payday.
It's payday.
Let's go blow it all.
Let's go get drunk. That's what normal people do. Normal hard-working people do. Let's go do something. Why you gotta stay in? That's stupid. So they go out.
They go to the local bar brothel.
Yeah, they do. And it just happens to be a full moon that night, which is bad news. It's bad news. It's not good stuff.
Bad news werewolves.
So Leon is not feeling so good at the bar. He decides to go outside and get some air.
You want to know why he's not feeling so good? He ate a bad person. The person was undercooked.
So he goes outside to get some air, and a lady he has never met in his life before offers for him to go up to her apartment and lay down. Who does that?
Prostitutes.
She gets him upstairs, and they're laying on her bed. They start making out, and she's cool with it until he bites her on the chest, and then she goes into this big thing of, I don't know who you think I am, but I'm not this kind of woman.
No, basically... She's saying that's not the right type of a step.
I'm not into that kind of thing.
No, she's saying this is the wrong establishment for this.
At that point, he's already fully turned into his werewolf form, and she says no, but he says, I don't care, and he bites her some more.
No. She says no, and he says, let's do it right.
And blood ends up everywhere.
Yeah. So, kill number 2, we have a hoedown.
Okay.
Leon, the werewolf, strangles the prostitute. I give it a 3 out of 5 because it's pretty vicious. But you really don't see anything.
But he broke a mirror.
He broke
7 years bad luck.
7 years bad luck, and her blood looked a lot like ketchup.
There's 2 orange, baby.
That orange tomato.
Okay. The next thing is, he went outside. His roommate comes out looking for him.
And we kill number 3. We are out of Jose.
Yep.
I give that a 2 out of 5.
We need a refill on the Jose.
Yep. Leon throws him across the way and blood comes out of his mouth, so we know he's dead.
Yep, that's always a telltale sign of they're gone.
And then Werewolf Leon, automatically transports to his hometown because movie logic. And
Yeah, he wakes up the next morning in his...
No. I'm still on kill.
Sorry.
So we get kill number 4. I can't come up with anything original with this one. It's 1 out of 5. It's nothing special. He kills the old farmer that was whining about his dog being dead. So I guess...
He jumps off the roof of a building and jumps on him as he's coming out of the bar.
Yeah. Still pretty. But I guess old dogs go to heaven?
Old dogs go to heaven.
Yeah.
Not all. Old.
Okay. So he went to go see his dog.
Maybe they buried him in his farm.
Maybe.
Maybe he's completing the circle of life and he's the fertilizer now.
The circle of life. Yeah.
So, Leon, like you said, and the next day, he is back at home in his own bed. He broke the bars to get into his room. Teresa and the Signor take Leon to the priest. The priest explains to Leon that he is indeed a werewolf. Leon is very upset by this news, especially since he can't remember anything from the night before, but he has blood on his hands. Leon gets questioned by the police and is unsure what happened. What happened to Jose?
Okay, so he goes back to his employer, but he has this like huge temper tantrum between his house and his employer, which I guess isn't really that far. Mm-hmm. And the way that Teresa acted at the beginning, like when he was saying "I'm leaving," she was like, "Well, why don't you work with your father?" Okay, and here's something that I've noticed. At first they said uncle, and then they said father at the end. Mm-hmm. You know, so that was sort of a weird thing that I could, at the end. But so the house is not far from where he's being employed. So I don't understand why they're having such a hard time with that distance.
Because they're old.
I guess. But he has this huge temper tantrum, and he gets this really sort of nice clothing. He's like walking around, and then he throws himself on like dirt piles and just pounds his fist into the dirt piles as he's going to his employer, and he's looking old dirty.
So Christina came into where Leon was at, which is like his apartment / work area type place. And he tells her, leave! He's like screaming at her to leave because it's getting close to dark and he knows he's going to turn and he doesn't want to hurt her. But she doesn't leave. She stays. He passes out basically. He sleeps. He wakes up and he realizes she's still there. But he realizes with her, he doesn't change into a werewolf. So he asks her, will you marry me? Will you run away with me? We need to leave now. He acts like it's such an immediate thing, but then they both take the time to go and pack a bag.
Yeah. Would you marry me? We gotta go now. We gotta go now. I gotta grab my luggage real quick. I'll see you in about 3 or 4 hours.
He takes the time to clean up and put on clean clothes, and he has her to go pack a bag. So in that time, the cops come knocking at the door and arrest him.
Well, because they found his underwear. He found his clothes there
that he ripped off at that chick's house.
Yeah.
The hoedown. At the hoedown. And, all that happened. So, yeah, he got arrested. Well, Christina comes trying to find him, and her father asks her, what is she doing? You were going to run off with him, weren't you? And she's like, yeah. Will you take me to him? Even asked her fiance, will you drive me to him?
I'm sorry. I know we're supposed to get married, but I found somebody else out. But I'm going to need you to give me a ride to see him. So could you be a sweetheart and do that for me? That's basically what she's asking.
Yeah, no, that's exactly what she's asking.
Yeah.
So Leon talks to the policeman in charge at the police station to see if he will send word to his father. So he has to pay him, but he does get him to send word to his father. His father and the priest come to him. He tells his father, you need to go to the mayor. You need to talk to the mayor. You need to tell him what's going on. You need to get the mayor to come and execute me. That's the only solution.
Just let's get it done. Let's get it over with. Pull the Band-Aid. Come on.
The priest begs him to reconsider. We'll talk the mayor into letting me take you to a monastery, and we'll deal with this another way.
Well, the priest's idea is to train him up in a monastery. That's what he wants. And then they'll work through the spiritual conflict that he's having.
Mm-hmm. And Leon's like, no, there's no other way. I just need to die. Well, they return with the mayor, and he begs him. Christina shows up soon after the mayor does, and the mayor asks Christina, do you know the affliction that this young man has? Is he normal to you? And Christina says, yeah, he's a normal dude,
He's got a mole on his butt, but other than that...
And, so he asks his father to go get Pepe's bullet, the silver bullet, and use it on him. The priest explains things to Christina, and she doesn't want to believe what's going on. Well, it gets dark. Leon begins to get a little furry. Well,
that's what happens when you don't give him his razor.
His cellmate is admiring the sunset, but not realizing what's going on around him in the cell. And let's just say he does when it's too late.
Yeah, I really don't give this one a rating.
Yeah, it's not fabulous. Just the fact that he wasn't realizing what was going on, he was more enthralled with the sunset, is kind of comical, actually.
Mm-hmm.
He rips at his clothes, and he kills the other prisoner in the cell.
So I realized in this movie that werewolves don't like shirts,
Yeah,
doors, or chairs.
Well, he breaks the cell door down, and he kills the guard as well.
He also the most innocent, so he picks up the door and he throws it at the poor innocent chair, because that chair did nothing wrong. Then he kills the...
Yeah. It really wasn't anything fabulous about killing the guard either. So the priest takes Christina to Teresa, and Teresa finds out through Christina that the Senor had went to Pepe's to get the silver bullet, and Teresa's very upset that it's come down to this. Leon... What was I trying to say? He goes to town, and Christina goes to town looking for Leon. Leon climbs the buildings to get away from the crowds of people. His father, armed with a gun and the silver bullet, goes up into the church's...
belfry.
Yeah, the belfry. I was thinking steeple, but no, you're right, because that's where the bells are kept. The bells are ringing, and as they're ringing, he fires the gun right...
Well, it is really quite brilliant, because it really throws off Leon's sense of direction, I guess.
Right, because of all the noise.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the motion, you got to think, also there's the bell motion, so you're not going to see
Mm-hmm.
And that's the only way that he's going to be able to take aim and shoot.
Mm-hmm.
By doing that.
It's a really confined space, but he manages to shoot him. And basically, once all the fun is gone, all the townspeople leave, and the only people that are left there is Christina and Teresa are just left there holding each other upset.
Mm-hmm.
And...
Yeah, they're all, the immediate family is all upset.
Mm-hmm.
It's just the pitchfork and torch crowd are just upset that they couldn't torch,
Right.
The windmill in this movie still stands,
Yeah.
and everybody was very upset about it.
Yeah. Well, once he shoots him, the Senor covers up Leon with his robes, and that's the end of it.
Yeah, so I actually give this movie a 4 out of 5. Just a lot of it is because of the folklore of it. And I sort of like the werewolf design. At first it was sort of jarring. Like, I really didn't care for it because it wasn't very streamlined. Mm-hmm. But the more I watched it, the more it made sense, especially for the guy who played the werewolf, his body type.
Yeah.
Because the guy who played it is a very boxy person.
Mm-hmm. I think for the time period, it works really well.
Mm-hmm. Oh, and the other thing I really liked, at the end, he doesn't transform back into a human. Mm-hmm. Like every werewolf movie.
Once they die, they transform back.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we do have quite a bit of trivia. Well, 9 different items for this film. This is the only werewolf movie made by Hammer Studios. In an interview, Richard Wordsworth stated that in the original screenplay, his beggar character was a werewolf. Hammer told him that the censor had problems with the notion of a werewolf/rapist, so out it went. Only 5 minutes were cut by the censor for the British release, and even more for the American version. I find that interesting.
Well, America actually back then was actually a lot harder on films than Britain was. And now it's sort of the opposite.
I thought they allow a lot more on British TV. I mean,
on television, but on movies, anything portraying like rape or anything like that, they're very no. But like consensual type stuff, they're fine with. It's just so you can joke and stuff about it, but you can't talk about rape or anything like that. Where here in America, we have some really uncomfortable horror movies that cannot be released. And I mean, that goes back to after this movie was released, I think in the 70s and 80s, he started doing the blue tape thing. They just have a different censorship for movies than what we do. But they also, I think, are against like extreme horror, like bloodshed and stuff like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So according to the documentary Flesh and Blood, The Hammer Heritage of Horror, 1994, the Spanish setting for this film was forced upon writer Anthony Hinds after Michael Carrasas had the studio backlot dressed for a film about the Spanish Inquisition. This film was not produced because the Catholic League of Decency threatened to ban it.
That actually would have been a really interesting movie.
Mm-hmm. The interiors of the inn where Leon is staying is the same interior from Dracula's castle in The Horror of Dracula, 1958. You can notice the same pillars. The basement he runs into is also the same vault where Dracula kept his coffin. Makes sense?
Mm-hmm.
Makeup artist Roy Ashton based his makeup for this film on Jack P. Pierce's makeup for The Wolfman, 1941.
That makes sense too.
With the exception of the opening titles, Oliver Reed does not appear until roughly halfway through the film, and his screen time as the werewolf, is even less. First appearing at just over an hour into the 93-minute film. In Spain was only released in Barcelona 44 years later. The film was projected 7 days and only in subtitled version. Okay. In Spain was a theatrical release in 2005 only in Barcelona. 44 years later, the film was projected for 7 days in subtitled version. Also was a TV premiere in 1990 and a re-release in Barcelona, where was projected for 1 day in subtitled version and 35mm copy.
I'd like to know more why it wasn't released until so much later.
Probably because of it doesn't really show a scene of rape, but
It does
it
implies. Yeah.
And because of all of the death.
But every horror...
Because of the implication of rape.
I think that's like the biggest thing about this movie. It's just like, if they didn't... I don't know how they would have gone about the way that they did it. But I sort of like the idea of the beggar being a werewolf. Mm-hmm. Compared to the... I mean, it's sort of... I'll be honest, it's sort of a disjointed...
Well, they probably took it out simply because of the idea of bestiality, and a lot of people don't. Because if he were a werewolf, then he would be an animal man. And if an animal man raped a woman, then would be the concept of bestiality.
But it makes a little bit more sense.
Loosely, yes, but it would be playing on that concept.
I mean, it's sort of hard to, like... Okay, watching this film, like, I had a hard time trying to understand what was the curse of the werewolf outside of being born on Christmas as an unwanted child and being like, I was sort of more hoping that it had something to more related to the beggar, which I originally think it was supposed to be.
Yeah. Definitely, I mean, taking that aspect out of the film disjointed that. Mm-hmm. So yes, it did definitely took that away.
Because there are parts in this movie at the beginning that are very disjointed. Like, you're missing parts. There are definitely two parts where you could tell that that's exactly where they cut it. And they really didn't try to do anything. It just is a hard cut. It's two very hard cuts.
Yeah. Well, we would definitely advise anyone that think they may be interested. I definitely would advise you all to view this film before you would allow small children to view it.
Yeah, because there are parts that are sort of uncomfortable or questionable. In, like...
It doesn't explicitly show rape, but it does imply it. So, as just like before, we're not going to tell you we feel like this is a movie that's appropriate for children. Everyone has their own opinion on things like that, and we're not going to say, hey, yes, we think you should let your kids watch this or whatever. You need to decide if you feel like it's appropriate yourself. So for sure, you need to view it before you allow your children to view it.
So, okay.
That way you can censor it appropriately.
Yeah. So a couple other things that sort of bothered me throughout the film, the movie, was that he seemed like he only had 2 volumes the entire time. Leon had 2 volumes the entire time. It was sort of hostile and screaming like a child.
To me, it seemed like he was either kind of like this or, ah!
Yeah.
Either like you can barely understand what he's saying or he's screaming. And I think that was to portray the fact that, like the priest said, his spirit and...
He had 2 spirits that were in conflict.
He said that his spirit and what else was fighting?
Spirit and soul or something?
Right. Those 2 things are fighting. So maybe, basically, he was having to portray 2 different characters. He was having to portray Leon and the werewolf. He was basically playing 2 characters. So he was constantly fighting between the 2. Yeah. He was trying to be Leon, who is this kind of quiet, shy, loving, mild-tempered guy, and the werewolf, who is this
beastly,
loud, beastly, rough, forceful character. So you are going to see that drastic difference because they're polar opposites.
Yeah. But I mean, it's unless you really think about it, it sort of gets annoying though. Especially when it comes to like really finite points of the film. So, some of the special effects were really good in it, though. I really like the baptismal scene where the water.
Yeah, because back then you don't expect to see those type of effects, you know.
Well, even nowadays, I mean, that was a practical effect, but even nowadays, it would just be CG. And I sort of like that they really didn't show him changing, although in like the 41 version, the Universal, they did. But I mean, they said that was very time consuming.
Yeah, I imagine it was.
But I don't think I felt like we lost anything with not seeing him transform.
No, I like the way they did it. I think we're going to have to call this one done because Luna's not going to cooperate anymore. She's not enjoying the fact that we have new neighbors. She thinks that they should already be at home in bed because it's late.
It is late. It's almost 1 o'clock. Well, anyway, so, yeah. Would you recommend this movie or not?
I would. I enjoyed it.
Just under the caution that it could get sort of there's a couple awkward scenes in it.
Yes.
That would especially if you have young children, you would have to, and
individuals that may have been in compromising situations. It would definitely be a
triggering.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
But other than that, I enjoyed it.
Overall, I do think it's a good film.
And I like that they did something different with the werewolf story. It wasn't just your atypical
right.
A werewolf bit me and now I'm a werewolf.
Right. I mean, they did go a totally different approach with it. So.
And I sort of wish though I don't really know a lot about Spanish folklore, but I sort of wish they would have played more. Again, I could be completely wrong, but if it's going to be placed in Spain, I sort of wish it would have been a little bit more Spanish, I guess. You know, like Spanish folklore type stuff. But as he said, that the Spanish thing was sort of thrown upon him.
Mm-hmm.
So
this is northeastern Europe.
So that would actually okay. So the origins of the werewolf Christmas birth was mostly in northeastern, such as Poland, in northeastern Europe. So why didn't they set it in that area? So if you want to know more, so if you want to know more about the werewolf mythos on Christmas, AmericaMostHaunted.com actually has a pretty lengthy article on it that seems really interesting. You know, we might do this as a Terror Talk. You know, weird traditions on Christmas when the holidays come closer.
Yeah. Save this.
Yeah, so we got we got a few more films and we'll finish off this year or this month and then start on September.
All right, I think that's all.
All right, bye.
We'll scare you later.